We are two guys, one cup.
It is the 14th, Sunday the 14th of June. Everyone relax. This is Two Guys, One Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast. And we are going to be even more AFL adjacent today because, of course, the Socceroos with a historic win in the World Cup. And I welcome to the show, back to the show, Adam Spencer. Boy, oh boy, what a great day to be a Swans fan, a Saints fan, and an Australian.
Has it all just come together for you and I, my friend, in this perfect triangular singularity? I mean, the Swans get up in a nail biter. You went through it the week before, but now you've seen it happen to Port Adelaide. You must be a bit happier. Then your boys, bang, bang. We'll talk about that. But before all that, the Socceroos too. Turkey, zip, Gallipoli Part 2. Our boys get the job done.
I mean, I've seen a lot of tweets about Gallipoli. I'm like, I guess enough time's passed now that we can all make jokes.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Too soon. Too soon.
I think we're all right.
Oh.
Yes, look, and it's ironic that someone who last week called out pretend footy fans, pretend Swans, pretend footy fans, who knows absolutely nothing about soccer or the Socceroos, but I am a card-carrying Socceroos fan now. Look, I'll tell you what I knew going into this game.
Okay.
I knew that Australia were probably considered the third best team in our group. I knew that Turkey were considered, probably like a good chance, like a favourite, if not to win the whole thing, but at least to go pretty far. And I knew that our captain had been dropped for a young kid to come in and play his third game. Is that right? That's all I knew going into today's game. Do I need to fact check on any of that?
Look, the stat, you're not strictly wrong, but of all the groups in the World Cup, you get a tier 1 team, a tier 2, a tier 3, and a tier 4 is how your group's assembled. But within each of those tiers, there's a fair range, so it's beautifully random. Now, the USA are the number 1 ranked team in our group only because they're hosting. They're not a top-tier team in the world at all. We are, of all the tier 2 teams you could get, probably the lowest ranked. So the USA were happy to get us as a tier 2. If you look at all the teams in this group on world rankings, it's the most compressed group at this World Cup. They're all basically the same. I think Paraguay's possibly not as strong as the other 3. If the USA played Australia, in Australia, it's the toss of a coin. That group is basically flat.
And what do you, but like, is that just down to pure parochialism, like home ground advantage? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, the USA have a massive advantage in front of 80,000 psychotic fans. There's absolutely a kick in that. And the refs will try their hardest. They're going to be swayed a bit. So the USA gets some run out of that. But these 4 teams, there's no, of all the 12 groups at this World Cup, there's no team you go, that's just, everyone's going to punch that team. It's the matter of who gets the most goals as to who goes through to the next. They're all very flat and even. Us and Turkey, I don't think there's much difference at all. Anyone who calls Turkey a better team than Australia has a bit of a Eurocentric and how could Australia play bias.
Yeah,
we
right.
play in a certain way. We don't attack from the moment. We absorb. But you have all the ball you want out there. Come here and try and score. We'll beat you on the counter. We did it twice. Bang, bang.
Slingshot footy. I recognise that as slingshot footy. That's defensive transition, right?
And of all the sports where slingshot footy's a handy thing to do, soccer football is the one because you score one goal, you can win the whole game. And it's not as though we couldn't attack if we want, and it was it's the smart way to play. It's the only way to play. For people who've been paying attention to this World Cup, they've got the mid-half break. The hydration break,
yes.
Right?
Now, is that new? I don't think I've ever seen that before.
First ever World Cup they've done it at. It's being dressed up as out of respect and concern for the play. It's just a cash grab.
Yeah, who's sponsoring that?
And it's American TV because America doesn't have a sport that goes 45 minutes without a break. NBA, NFL, they've got quarters. Baseball, they've got breaks. They've gone, what do you mean we've got to go 45 minutes without trying to sell someone Coca-Cola or Pepsi in this case, right? For us, the way Aussies play, that actually helps us a lot. If we think of the game as 4 separate quarters and we have to win one of them, that works better for us than some teams who just mount. If you watched Morocco-Brazil this morning, Morocco score their first goal. and they have Brazil under the pump. And it looks like they're going to get a second goal. We'll have a drink break, come back. Brazil score 1-1 draw, right? So Morocco would have loved no break this morning. Aussies, we will love this break every game. It's just the way we play. But there's no objective fan who could have watched today and said Australia did not deserve to win that, or to, the goalkeeper, Beach, kid, who's replaced the national captain,
I
Matt
know, it's
Ryan,
crazy.
as the goalkeeper, plays the game of his life and gives all these memes about finally, after
Gallipoli
Gallipoli,
beaches, yep.
Turkey finds how hard it is to take a beach, right? Smashes it. And they just, but I do have one, and I know you don't like to get political on Two
Okay.
Guys, One Cup, Charlie, but I
Yeah.
want one point. Our
Right.
first goal scorer, Nestori Irukunda, born in Burundi, grows up in a Tanzanian refugee camp, then comes to Australia. I don't know about you. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of Two Guys, One Cup fans when I say I am sick and tired of refugees coming to this country and taking jobs off what could have been good, hard-working Australian centre forwards. So that's why I will be voting One Nation at the next election, because someone needs to be brave enough to have a conversation.
There was I saw a very funny juxtaposition, some photos from Melbourne. There was like Fed Square with everyone going bananas. And then there was some Nazi rally, like anti-immigration Nazi rally, with like 4 people, on the bridge to Spencer Street. And it's like
Mate,
a Southern Cross station.
Mate, the Socceroos put out this little thing of this is my name, this is where I'm from. And it's the most amazingly diverse. There's a couple of people whose one generation back parents fled this country. These guys grew up in this refugee camp. Another guy going, I grew up in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Mate, it's everything Australia is.
From Costa Zoo to Russell Crowe, Australians love nothing better than taking someone who was born in another country and claiming them as our own. This is what we do.
Yep. And we've got the young Italian kid who's qualified to play for both countries. And the day before the World Cup finalisation had to happen, given that Italy, one of the great football powers, have not made the last 3 World Cups, said, fuck it, I'll play for Australia.
Amazing. It's funny you talk too about that sort of European bias, because last night I caught up with a friend who's Australian, but his wife's Spanish, and their kids were born in America. And so I said, so who are you guys going for? And his wife just he said, well, it's a bit divided because, she goes for Spain, I'm going for Australia, but the kids, because they're born in America, they want to go for the USA. And then we were talking about it. I said, well, so what are Australia's chances? And as we were talking, she looked and she just laughed. She laughed and she's like, oh, it's so adorable hearing Australians talk about their football team. You go on, guys, have a good time. And then my mate, who's English, when I turned up, so there was I must make a complaint. There is a bar in town. Like we have a bowling club that closed down. There's a current legal action because this a big multi-conglomerate from Sydney came in, took over our bolo, and then shut it down without any warning. And so that's normally where everyone would go in town to watch the soccer. So there's either the pub or this very fancy, very kind of cool cocktail bar. They put flyers up and, on their social media, hey, we're the home of the World Cup. And so everyone in town was like, oh, great, that's a cool bar. But I was thinking, well, you'll get there, there'll be a projector set up. They just ran it like a cocktail bar with the world's smallest TV. Like the desktop monitor I'm looking at right now to record this podcast is bigger than the TV they put up. And not only that, but they were still playing their cocktail music over the speakers rather than the sound from the actual game.
Well,
so
I must
anyway,
admit,
go on.
Well, today I was at a very good friend of mine, Paul, an old mate of mine from used to coach him in debating. He celebrated a landmark birthday today, and they booked out this beautiful restaurant and an intimate little gathering, and they've locked it all in well before the draw for the World Cup is going on. It was down at Bondi, so it was across the road from where Bondi Beach had an outdoor spectator viewing area. And so all these beautiful emotional speeches are being given to Paul and what he's achieved in his life and his beautiful wife, Lisa, and their family, and how lucky we all are. And halfway through one of the speeches, Nestori Irukunda scored his first goal. And I was like, I could not have been more committed to the speeches, the event and everything. Was watching on my phone and just let out a little, fucking yes! Come on!
Mate, let me take your best mate's speech and I'll raise you a daughter's piano recital. Because today, of all days, at 3 p.m., in which both the Socceroos are playing and St Kilda had their game scheduled, which, by the way, AFL, move the fucking game. Like, there was
we'll get to that.
nothing else
We will
happening
get to-
this afternoon. Move the game. And so, look, so we got to the pub to see the first goal. So we saw pretty much the first half, and then we had to go to the recital. So I had in my lap, we went and we saw the roster of who was going up first. It's like, oh God, she's like 8th in the list. I was very Adam Spencer. I was doing the maths in my mind. I was like, okay, so 8 kids, I'll be about 5 minutes each. It's 40 minutes. It's half time, so minus 20, so we could probably get back for the
injury
last
time.
20. And so, but you've got to imagine the audience, her music teacher, she opens up her house with this beautiful recital, and it is beautiful. Any other day of the week, there was harp performances, piano, and a lot of kind of discussion about the history of classical music and blah, blah, like, you know, a real kind of like a real tough event. And there I am sitting up the back in my tracksuit pants and my hoodie with my phone on my lap, just like glancing down occasionally. I was made sure to applaud everyone. Yeah. But then as soon as, because I was saying to Jem, I was like, look, as soon as she's done, like, I'm out of here. But the woman that would...
You don't understand, Jem. I've loved this sport for like 4 days now. I've got to get outside.
I've got to go, because I knew I knew that to go back, when I got to the pub before we left to the recital, my English mate was giving me his version. He was like, look, if Australia can, they're probably not going to beat Turkey. They're probably not going to beat the USA. If they can draw with one of those sides and you should beat Paraguay, then that'll be the best
Third
possible
place,
result.
you're a chance to go through.
Yeah. So then, knowing what was at stake, I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I had to. I watched Iona finish her performance, and then I said, I'm out of here. And Jim's like, wait a minute, I'm coming with you. So we had to text our other friend who was there with her daughter and said, do you mind looking after our daughter so we can get back to the pub to watch the last 20 minutes of the game? And we did it. We got back.
Because your wife, Jem's Scottish, yeah?
Yeah.
So they're on a roll already.
Yeah, that's right.
Having taken Haiti out during the day.
Jem is very much like me. We're just on board for this. Like, we'll forget about it as soon as it's done.
So the last World Cup was in Argentina. But Argentina won it. And my wife and I had been to Antarctica. I hosted a cruise around Antarctica and was one of the incredible event. And we come back and we spent a few days in Buenos Aires. We flew out of Buenos Aires at 8 p.m. when Argentina had won the World Cup at 3 o'clock that afternoon, right? We stayed a couple of extra days, watched the final, mayhem. But against the AFL won't reschedule a game and she won't, she put a recital on. When we got to the airport to fly out, all the flights were delayed because all the Argentinian pilots had said, we're not fucking going anywhere. What are you talking about? They were delaying international flights out of Buenos Aires airport to see if Lionel Messi and the boys could get the job done.
Wow.
So the I didn't understand. We a few years ago at the Women's World Cup, and we watched a Swans game, and it finished just before the Matildas played that epic game against France that they won in a penalty shootout that went to like 10 shots each. It finished early. We sat around in the SCG. They put the game up on the big screen and we watched the Matildas play. And of a crowd, like 7,000 or 8,000 people stayed around. Even they could have flipped the Marvel and MCG games that were on today. But why the AFL? If the AFL had come out and said, clearly a clash, got every AFL captain in a Socceroos jersey going, go the Socceroos, we won't play while you're starting your tournament. But big win. No one's going to watch one game of football and go, oh, I'm not going to support the AFL anymore. Just what
was the official word? Is this down to like code competitiveness? They just don't want to give any ground?
I don't know, mate. They'll reschedule games if there's lightning.
Yeah.
They'll reschedule games for all sorts of reasons.
Lightning struck twice today. I can't believe they didn't reschedule.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, it's even more impressive that your boys won today at Marvel because you're playing at Marvel. There's no one there.
Okay,
for
I
GWS,
was wondering about that because it looked empty, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like I thought you're going to definitely lose at least 5,000 people who might go to that game, and not only that, but I also believe a lot of the trains that were going from Bayside suburbs to Southern Cross Station were bus service. So like you're going to lose everyone. But I'm looking at it. They said they got 17,000, which I think is not bad for GWS.
Well,
I think we had the worst crowd we had last year was 13,000 for the Suns. So I was expecting it was going to be a lot worse. But yeah, it's just stupid. Like I don't know why they wouldn't just get behind it. Like nothing but goodwill.
Yeah, you have ripped the rug out. My savage burn was going to be no one turned up. So for GWS, it felt like a home game. But
sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, but I don't understand why the Swans had a session during the week before they played Port. Their sort of captain's run training, and they all wore Socceroos jerseys for their training session, right? And there's this great footage of Isaac Heaney kicks a very snaky good goal at training, and runs and does the full sort of soccer player down on his knees, hands out, and it's because these guys. Your club, I'm sure. The Swans, there's footage of the Swans watching the NBA.
Yeah.
New York winning that game and miraculous comeback, going crazy. These players all love sport. They would get on board the Socceroos in a heartbeat if the AFL had the foresight to just push one game back 2 hours.
I'm sorry, mate. I did step on your burn for GWS, but don't worry because Ross Lyon got this in pre-game.
Today, but the game style, like their next door neighbours, GWS in Sydney, geographically, although they'd prefer to be around the eastern beaches, they all live there. But
Here you go. Ross Lyon's been reading your notebook.
Love it. Love it.
I was, you know what? Like I was very worried coming out of that Swans game what mentally we would be like. And to be honest, the last quarter we did look a little shaky. But oh my God, it's such a relief. I don't even know what's going to happen with this season going on. Like we're in the 10. We scraped into 10. We basically swapped places with GWS. But Liam Ryan, now, you occasionally like you'll get a bunch of players in, and occasionally someone will feel like steak knives. And Liam Ryan, I think for most Saints fans, we were like, oh yeah, like he said, he was that guy who took Mark of the Year 5-6 years ago. I think he ripped both hammies off the bone. So you would expect that he would. The last 2 weeks, he's kicked 11 goals. I think he's kicked over 20. So he's 5 off kicking. He's only played 9 matches this year, and he's 5 or 6 goals off kicking a career high, which is just incredible, right?
Mate, like last week against us, he looked dangerous every time he got the ball anywhere near him. He took something that's got to be in the conversation of Mark of the Year.
Yes.
Over Brodie Grundy, he's giving up 50 centimetres to, like, normally if you step ladder a player, you step ladder a medium height, 190 centimetre dude, and you go up. He's climbed on a ladder to get onto Brodie to take a spectacular grab. And I'm comfortable talking about it because we ended up winning. But like he was good last week. And then today there was a couple of, like, when it was on the line, there was one where Naz runs down and just pings it in. I'm like, mate. I'll run through 5 guys and grab that and go back and do what had to be done. But your boys hung tough today, really hung tough when they needed to.
Well, let's talk a little bit about last week because when I invited you on, I said I would give you the right of the play. You read the email that I read from a Swan supporter. I can't remember his name, but the guy who lives in country Victoria but likes to drive up to Sydney for games, who talked about his nephew being abused for wearing a Giants beanie and stuff. Now, I did preface it by saying I have no problem with rusted on Swans fans. I love the tradition, love the Bloods, all that kind of stuff. It's the Instagram crowd that I have a problem with. And I'm sure that every club has them. It's just that they were cutting to those guys after the siren last week, and that's why I was so angry.
Yep. Let me say a few things, Charlie.
Okay. You got some prepared statements?
Oh, no, just a few. Just let me riff.
Okay.
So last night we play Port Adelaide. Well, depending on when this goes out, we've just played Port Adelaide. Foundation team in an AFL heartland city with no NRL or anything else to distract them. They got 31,000 to play the top of the table Swans, who tend to bring a bit of a crowd with them. I've looked at Brisbane's numbers this year, and in a Gabba that holds 42, Brisbane are basically pulling 30,000 people for a home game, give or take, right? In a generational team that could three-peat, you may never see a team this good again. 30,000 people turn up. Every week that the Swans play, there's 2, 3, 4 or 5 NRL games in a non-AFL city. We're bringing 40,000 people a game here. And drive by GWS, you can see what happens if it doesn't take. They're pulling 9,000 people, right? We're pulling 40,000 people a game. Granted, some of whom are turning up because it's a fun place to be. Some of whom don't know all the rules, right?
They're the ones who are texting me after a win.
Totally. Or let's go to the Port crowd last night, who, as far as I can tell, as soon as they get off the tram or out of their car in the car park, just start booing and boo until half an hour after the game's over. And I've sat in crowds like that. Mate, my daughters went to a game a couple of years ago in Sydney, sat in front of some Collingwood fans, real footy supporters, who were shouting the most grotesque, horrid stuff because they loved their footy.
Yeah.
What do people want Sydney to do? We're pulling 40,000 people a week in an NRL heartland with a team that's got multiple players that come through our academy who would never have touched an AFL football if we hadn't pumped millions of dollars. So then we get nailed over the academy. Let me keep going. I saw some footage the other week of Hailbury. Right, Hailbury, the AFL bastion fever. Hailbury's high school footy team, 3/4 time. Their coach, Matthew Lloyd, is walking around giving advice to the kids, and then they pull the camera away. There's a couple of other comments coming from, I presume, like an advisor or assistant coach, Scott Pendlebury. Right? So when people look at the Swans and go, oh, but you've got an academy. An academy we're dropping millions of dollars on to get a kid like Isaac Heaney, who never would have played this sport, to play. And if you're a Melbourne Foundation club, you don't need your academy is called Hailbury, Caulfield, Carey, All Saints, ... Against all that, we're dragging people in who don't know that much about the game. And we're getting no, mate. So if Port brought a few people who didn't care about footy, they'd have a crowd matching ours. I just don't know what people want us to do.
Well, look, I think Port Adelaide
turn people away at the gate because that's like you're not going to meet someone in Sydney who supports the Swans because their grandfather, blah blah blah, their dad did, and if I married someone who didn't support the Swans from a Collingwood. Because that's when you're trying to create a feeling for this beautiful game in a city that had zero interest a few years ago, you're going to get a few happy snappers on the way.
I met two of them today because when I was at the pub, a couple of guys I had met watching the Socceroos, and then we went in to watch the Saints and the Giants. We got chatting, and they were both Swans fans, but it was like two case studies. One was old school South Melbourne connections, his dad, his granddad. So he'd gone up the other way. The other guy was someone who'd grown up. I guess it would have been the Paul Roos era. Like he got interested in footy around 2005 after that first flag, and then he went down for the 2012 grand final. But he actually played footy. He played with Kieran Jack. I think he maybe was in an academy or development. So, but he was saying that similar thing, which is like, look, you can't want the game to grow, but also get annoyed. It's sort of like the way the NRL fans feel about Melbourne Storm. It's like, well, do you want this? Do you want to have market dominance or not? So look, I know I'm contradicting myself. I was emotional and it was in the moment, but it's just got to stop cutting to the crowd. Just stop cutting to the Sydney crowd. They just most punchable faces on television.
And like with every supporter of every team thinks they are the team against which the AFL is institutionally
Conspiring.
stacked
Yeah,
against them
that's right.
possibly going to, right? So,
I love those conversations. They hate us. They hate us. It's not in their best interest to hate you.
yeah, but when hypothetically, when St Kilda, who I can understand entirely, or in North Melbourne, there's certain things, go after the Swans.
Mm.
I mean, the what we've had to do as a club to if someone had posited in the mid-90s when we have guys underwriting the club, if it goes bankrupt, you can take $1 million of our money to pay the debts. Said, well, starting in 1996, we'll make finals statistically almost every year for 30 years and get you 80,000 members in Sydney and average home crowds of 40,000. Not everyone's going to understand the rules. You'll take that in a heartbeat. In an NRL like Brisbane, and I love what they're doing, they're basically matching Broncos home game crowds in that city, and that's awesome. What the Swans are doing statistically is just unbelievable in the market that we are fighting against day in, day. Come and read the papers up here. When the Swans are on an absolute tear, you'll go through 8 pages of rugby league about a guy who might be playing in a few weeks if his ankle gets better, before you'll see, oh, by the way, Isaac Heaney favourite for Brownlow, 11 pages in from the back. That's the sort of thing that we're working on here.
Except they'll call him Isaac Hennessy.
Yes, exactly.
Now, you mentioned that Port fans are angry. Look, they have reason to be angry. Another game. So they've lost 6 games this year by less than a goal. So I've been saying all year, and people think I'm crazy, that I don't think Port are as bad as everyone's writing them off to be. But the other factor that and Saints fans went through this last year, is that Zach Butters is probably going to win their best and fairest. He's easily their best player, almost won the game for them again a couple of nights ago. But it seems a foregone conclusion that he's leaving. Like the one thing I really liked, I mean, Zach Butters is such a interesting case study because the way he plays is nothing what he's like when he's when he's off the field. He's just he's very upfront. He's very honest, and he talks about the pull of wanting to go back to Victoria, and he grew up for the barracking for the Bulldogs and stuff. So if you're a Port fan, like, this is a shocking year for you, because it could have, like, if they were winning these games but you're going to lose Zach, then you'd be like, okay, well, I can live with that because I can see some green shoots. But they're not getting that, and also their best player is probably going to leave. So I never would normally say this about Port Adelaide, but I have some sympathy for why they're booing all the time.
Yeah, but they were booing a long time before Zach Butters came to the club, and they'll boo a long time after he left. But I'll take your point. But I know exactly what you're saying, because with us it's Chad Warner. Now, 2 years ago, you're doing the maths on Chad's contract, this and that. Okay, he's gone, and then he goes and buys a house. And I remember reading there were articles in the WA press. Chad Warner buys a house. It's in a certain location, and they're going, it's so confusing. It's geographically closer to something, but it's a faster drive to somewhere. Is he going to go to what? And it was pretty much assumed before he signed the 2-year extension that runs out at the end of this year that he's going to go. And I don't know. I speak to Chad occasionally at the club. I've got no idea. He's giving off more vibe this year about, I love this place. I'm so comfortable here. What a great group of guys, than you've ever heard from him. So who knows where that's going to go? But again, to push the outrageously biased Swans barrow, whenever I hear about a major player leaving a club to go home, I just don't have a shred of sympathy. In the 30 years of the AFL, VFL, there's one player has ever said they want to go home to Sydney. Nick Davis, 1998, leaves Collingwood. So Jordan Dawson, right?
Yeah, I was just going to bring him up.
Yeah. Mate, we took Jordan Dawson at 57 in the draft. Both Adelaide teams said no to Jordan Dawson twice. We threw him a lifeline, and I completely respect his decision. But once we'd trained him up out of a handy backman and said, if you want to run in the midfield, we'll match dollar for dollar any offer. And I understand the home attraction. We just can't keep him. If you look at the Swans players, give us Jordan Dawson back and a couple of others, give us Elise, and a couple of others who've left the Swans or guys who've wanted to go home, and we'll any day of the week. The number of sort of foundational Melbourne clubs who every year just a couple of players drop in their lap, and if Merritt leaves Essendon, he's certainly not leaving Victoria. Like, just don't even realise this sluice of quality players that just come back in every year is amazing.
I mean, this could be like if you I love talking about storylines on this show. Jordan Dawson, what he's doing now and what he's doing for his team, considering where they were at the start of the year and obviously, the family tragedy he's been through, what he's putting together now and where he could take this team, like this could be an amazing run that the Crows go on. And this is without Isaac Rankin. Like he's coming back next week or in a couple of weeks, I believe. So if the Crows can get on a run with Jordan Dawson in that kind of form, look out. I've been really, like most people, I've had my doubts about the Crows, but there's just something about what he's doing at the moment. It's when a player announces themselves. It's like Nick Watson at the Hawks or, Goulden when he plays for the Swans. It's like, oh, okay, this is a difference maker. I mean, Fremantle have about 4 of those at the moment. That's what makes them so good. But I really, I can get behind that. I can get behind a real finals push from the Crows led by Jordan Dawson.
Well, after they won on the weekend, I can't remember. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off. I can't remember who it was on the weekend said, you can have all the plans you want, and so occasionally someone smashes that plan. And Jordan Dawson, in the first quarter of the weekend, just took their game plan and went, not going to work.
It was Bontempelli. He said, they went into the game and the Dogs were in red hot form. I was totally expecting it to be a much closer match, but they were bullied. They were bullied in that first quarter. And Kennedy, who played on him, is a good midfielder, but it's just it's like manifest destiny sometimes with players. It's like, I'm just going to put you Naz. That's what Naz did for us last year. We were crying out for someone just to announce themselves. And then he just said, just follow me. And I think that's what you're seeing with Jordan Dawson. It does give you massive concerns about the Bulldogs though, because the Bulldogs can either look like the best team on the planet and they're just they just sparkle when they're on. But then when they're bad, they're so fucking bad. Yeah. They look terrible.
I can't imagine. There's years when your team is good and you expect certain things, and there's years where you'll be happy with certain things, but you have to accept a certain reality. I can't imagine the internal torment that a Bulldogs fan must face in alternative weeks or alternative quarters in alternative games, seeing what that team can produce. But people have been saying for 4 or 5 seasons, as good a list, a bit shaky in defence.
Yes.
So we'll just attack harder. But they didn't lose against Adelaide because their defenders were not as tall as they should be. They got run out in a completely different part of the park.
Got smashed out of the middle.
Must be which for a team that has about 17 starting midfielders is, I know you've got 6-6-6, but they should play 0-17-1 with Rory Lobb out the back. And that must be a weird bus to be on.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's also too, because now it brings back the whole, there's always been questions about, is Luke Beveridge getting the most out of a list that doesn't, like you say, have a strong defense, or is he mismanaging this amazing midfield and they haven't worked hard enough to get a good defender? Can you see my light is tweaking out? I don't know if talking about the Bulldogs is causing some kind of a.
I love it.
Like an EMP is going off in the studio. If you're watching this on YouTube, talking about the Bulldog, I might be electrocuted. This could be the final episode of Two Guys
One Cup. The ghost of Rory Lobb just easing into the conversation.
What a way to go out. The other massive disappointment was the Suns. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I don't know if it's time to bust out the harp music. Maybe I'll bust out the harp music because, do you remember when at the start of the season, everyone was like, the Suns, they want for nothing. They are the world's greatest football club. They bring in Petrarca. They've got a triple premiership coach in Dimmer. Do you remember when you looked at midfield and you're like, Anderson, Rowell, Petrarca, they've got Jamara Ugle-Hagan for nothing. But I think it just does come back to that thing of there's too many guns and not enough grunts. They need more grunts because the grunts are just happy to be there. You need those players that you've pulled off like like out of the mid-season draft or, came off your supplementary list who are just like, they will throw themselves on the grenade so your Lamborghinis can cruise around. But look, this is not to say that they should have beaten Geelong. Like Geelong don't lose at GMHBA Stadium, but they just kind of, I don't know. Like, I know you have no love for the Giants, but at least I feel like the Giants play with a bit of passion. You know what I mean? But the Suns just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not vibing with them.
But in the same, we'll move to the Suns. But my knock on the Giants for a long time has also been, certainly a few years ago, when there's not a guy in the sheds looking around going, "Oh, you're a top 10 draft pick. I'm a top 10. We're all top 10 draft picks." I think there was a period there where the Giants could have also done with a few other guys who'd had to fight tooth and nail to ever get a game in a team. And I know that when we played the Suns in Gather Round, the interesting thing about Gather Round I find is that you rarely get two teams who are sort of in the conversation of pretty good teams in the comp playing at a completely neutral venue. And Gather Round can be quite informative. It's early in the season, but when we played them, with the greatest respect to the Suns and their fans, yet they for a game I was worried about going in, they did suddenly seem just a bit short of options once we started to win the arm wrestle.
Yeah.
There's a when things go their way, it rolls, but there's.
I mean, when
I
you
don't know
think
what the
about
plan B, the plan C is.
Well, I guess the only template you've got to go off is is Dimmer's like Richmond dynasty team, and they had 3 or 4 superstars, but then they just had a bunch of. I mean, they're all good players, but they were kind of more they were just
Role players,
and but not just in the terms of like their ability, but you are specifically a defender. We're not going to switch you up and back. The only guy who really had license was Dusty because Dusty could do anything, but I just don't know. I just don't know what the Suns' identity is. Like even, teams have trademarks. They come in and say they're a stoppage team or they're like a handball forward team or whatever. I guess they're a handball forward team, but at the same time, the Cats just bullied them out of it, just like came up on them and worried them out of it. And it's just so depressing to think that Geelong could make another grand final. I'm so sick of how professional they are.
Yeah.
Like they are so good. They're just so good at what they do. And that home ground is an underrated advantage because it's different to an interstate team's home ground because interstate teams still have to travel outside of their state boundaries. They will play 11 home games there, plus, I don't know, 5 in Melbourne, like at Marvel or the or the MCG or whatever it is. So
did you see during the week with another election coming up, people in and around the Geelong are petitioning for some serious government assistance to again upgrade geometry.
I mean, look, there's a lot of allegations of like misspending of funds in Victorian government. And if we do launch a royal commission, I think we have to get Catman on the stand because what is going on? It's insane. And look, I went down there last year. I went to a game last year and it is a fantastic stadium. They've done a great job. But come on, like the amount of money you got, like it's a pretty good mid-sized ground. It's not like, the Coliseum or anything.
Yeah. But they, from what I understand, in an electoral sense, they're lucky that at the federal, state, and local level, it's a seat it's an area that's really contested.
Right. So
every election,
no matter who's in government,
every election, state or federal,
funny.
whatever, it's a few bucks here might get, like a big promise of if you vote for me, you'll get this, carries a lot more weight than it might if you're in an absolute seat that always votes one way. So good luck to them for spinning it as they do. But yeah, I agree with you. I think we'd much rather see some fresh new teams like maybe Fremantle and the Sydney Swans in the grand final.
Hey, we haven't done this all year because obviously been rotating co-hosts, but this might be fun. Traditionally on Two Guys One Cup, when I was doing it with Will last year, I'd get him to have a crack at the ladder.
Ooh.
So obviously it's different this year, but without looking, Adam, do you think you can name me who from 1 to 6 who is leading the ladder?
Are we doing the old vibe check?
Vibe check. Start at the top, work your way down.
Well, number one on the ladder would have to be the Fremantle Dockers.
Yes, by percentage.
Are ahead of the Swans by a really small, like 148 to 147 or something.
No, it's more than that. It's 147 Fremantle to 147.9 to 143.7. So they're, what's that? Almost 4 points clear, or the 4.2 points
More
clear.
than 4.2.
Who's in number 3?
Le Geelong Cats.
Geelong Cats. Now, okay, so far so good. I think those three are, whatever order you put them in. This is where it gets surprising. Who's fourth on the ladder?
Because we've had one round of buys, haven't we?
2.
So
one full round of buys, you mean? Yes, and we're splitting the second round of buys now.
Yeah, but not everyone's played the same number of games.
No. But Freo will lead it. Freo 1 game less than the Swans and the Cats, and they're still on top of the ladder.
Okay. Freo, Swans, Cats. How's Melbourne must be all right after their
Melbourne are in 4th spot, and that was a big shock to me.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they played the Bombers on the weekend, so, they were going to win that game. But talk about, I don't know where you put the Ds before the season started, but I was like, they'll probably be like bottom 6. I can't imagine. They've lost Petrarca, they've lost
They're
Oliver.
having fun. They're playing.
New coach.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, like it's what the Ds, I know they've had recent success, but like they have had a lot of heartache and angst, those fans. And even like they didn't even really get to enjoy their premiership because it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And then after COVID, you had like Stephen May being a dickhead. You had like
the only guys who got to enjoy the premiership got arrested for going to it.
Yeah, like Clayton Oliver just was in and out of the side. What's going on with Clay? Petrarca almost dies. The club president doesn't even know doesn't even call him. So he had all this turmoil. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I feel really good for these fans. I think this is a really good thing. And it's interesting. Craig McRae did the same thing when he went to the Pies. The style of football they play is so attractive. It makes you like the team. Like seeing Cozzy in full flight, but Max Gawn, you got to love him. But they're just playing a really good brand of football, and they've won enough big games now that you're like, okay, they're legit. And it's like, could the D's challenge this year? I don't know, maybe.
And I must admit, like we've played them. The thing that's hard to follow across the season is for teams you don't follow closely, you don't know who's played who. So unless you watch one of the AFL media where they go, okay, here's their next 4. For all I know, they've got a nightmare draw coming up. Also, with respect to them, I can't remember them beating many. Right,
they beat Brisbane, but that was the start of Brisbane's bad form. They've beaten some good sides, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of any others. They almost beat Fremantle, but they got done. They beat Hawthorn, didn't they? They beat Hawks. I'm pretty sure they beat the Hawks. So I think they're okay. I mean, they're definitely a lot better than what I would have thought most people would have thought coming in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
North Melbourne, on the other hand, Jesus Christ, did you see that game? Literally could not have fallen across the line any harder than they did.
Yeah.
If Waterman kicks straight, doesn't hit the post, then they lose that game.
And poor old Waterman, who last week missed a kick, and people are going, he's just got to work on the drop of the ball. And then poor guy comes back next week and again just...
And the weird thing about it too is he was kicking quite well earlier in the game. It was just a clutch moment. The pressure must have got to him. But you know who is just so great to watch? I mean, but Harley Reid. I was watching his game, and there is just something about the zest with which, like he there's a bit fire in that first quarter. He ducks his head when he goes in. He obviously tries to initiate contact, but he just play like I think he's already a good player, but he's just going to be a monster once they get a few more good players around him, and he's not having to carry the entire load of that team. I think the Eagles are going to be okay. They've definitely won more games than anyone thought they would this year. But that kid, Job Shanahan, 195 centimeters, I think it's his first season. If not his first, it's only his second. He's just like floating across in defense and attack and marking the ball all over the shop. And it's like, You can see it now. Like you can see Dersma, Reed, they got Shanahan. It's like they're going to be okay. And like you never worry about the Eagles financially. Like they're
No.
fine.
No.
They're going to be solvent for a long,
Yeah.
long time. And like you're talking about the Swans fans, they've been turning up even through the last 5 years. They've just been like, it's if not sold out, then close to sold out. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the wait list for the membership has dropped from 4 generations back to only 25 years or something. But again, with the greatest respect to Perth, beautiful part of the world, when there's nothing else drawing on you, when there's no other sports that are either cannibalizing you or people traditionally supported and you had to win them over, it is what you do. It's what you go to. So we're down to Melbourne. In the 8.
yeah. So Melbourne are number 4. So who comes in at 5?
Are Hawthorn still going all right? Because Hawthorn have got a sneaky draw up their sleeve as well. Are they?
Yeah,
Hawthorn
they had
must be in
the
the
bye
8.
this weekend, but they are going okay. They've probably lost a couple this year that you would have thought they would have won. They are indeed in 5th position.
Because they were right up there then they've spluttered in the last 3 or 4 weeks and have had a bye thrown in, yeah?
And had a draw as well this season. So they're
Yeah.
only half a game off 4th and
Okay.
a fair bit of percentage ahead of the Ds. So the Ds have got them nipping at the heels. And then in 6th spot,
Ra-pa-pa. So the Swans we're on 48, yeah? So have we got a clutch of teams on 32 now?
no, one team on 32 to take 6 spots. So 6th through to 8th are all on 32 points.
Yeah, this is how I look at it more like that than it's going to be Adelaide, the 3 teams will be Adelaide, Brisbane and the Bulldogs, and then you're going to be percentages there. Adelaide, Brisbane. Well, let's go alphabetically. Adelaide, Brisbane, Bulldogs on 32.
Correct. Well done. Ding, 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 ding.
Bit of alphabetical order came through there. They're all pretty much. Well, no, the Bulldogs' percentage isn't great, is it?
No,
But Adelaide and Brisbane's
they-
is a bit better.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are the most vulnerable in the top 10. So underneath the Bulldogs is Gold Coast, and the Saints. So Saints have an okay percentage, 102. Gold Coast better, 107. But the Bulldogs are 90. So they have to win games. They have to start winning games. Good chance.
So can I ask you? And
Yeah.
I don't mean to be a dick about this,
Yeah.
but as a team, as the supporter of a team who in the first season of the 10th through to 6th, super clash,
Yes.
I'm hoping we've got to drop a lot of games to feature in that. But as a team who are red hot in the mix to play in the supplementary round after everyone else gets while all the other teams in the finals are getting a week off to replenish, to be forced to play. Let's say you guys you could finish 9th to play 8th to get those last 2 spots to then play 5th and 6th who've had an extra week off. Are you excited about are you looking at that 9th and 10th coming into it going, this is more of a door for the Saints to extend their. What do you think about the super round?
Well, I love the super round just in terms of maintaining interest, but I don't think it's like a badge of honor or anything like that. I think for the Saints, considering the moves we made in the off season, it's just to save embarrassment more than anything. Like the Gold Coast and the Saints, I think they had so much written about them and expectations coming into this season that making the 10 is about just pride, like not being humiliated. Because Carlton could get in. Like Carlton are only 1 game out. If North only out in percentage, Giants only out on percentage. So, but that's it. I don't think any of those teams. I don't think anyone who's finishing and playing that wild card round is thinking, "Oh, this is how we're going to mount our attack on the premiership."
But I look at our guys this year.
Yeah.
And last year we had a tough year with some injuries and all that, and we probably underperformed a bit, and then stormed home when Errol came back and all this, and played some good footy. Clearly, Coxie changed the game plan to handball a lot more in probably the last month of last year,
Mm-hmm.
and then had for the first time in years for our club that makes a lot of finals, the full extended preseason. And clearly we've come back better for that. I think we're a bit fitter than some teams.
Mm.
We're giving up leads early and running over the top of a lot of teams. I think there's a bit of even with guys, we've got a bit of an injury list now, but there's a fitness thing there. I think I could see this wild card thing. If you get through the wild card round and win the first round of it, and then come up against teams who had the week off and you just go, I think there's going to be teams going, we basically missed 3 weeks extra preseason.
Yes.
With no chance of ever winning it, getting dragged into a sort of
like a marketing gimmick.
A theatre.
Yeah.
To then and like if you win that wild card round and pick up a couple of injuries in doing so, you're just gonna and I don't mean to be patronising to teams for whom that might be a real ambition, but I can imagine some teams that are in the middle of a rebuild or a trajectory up, going, oh, that's the last thing we needed was to
lose 3 weeks of preseason,
and then bring out a guy who got smashed and did his knee in a 10th versus 4th playoff that we were never any chance to.
It's the fairy tale. It's the fairy tale. It's the same thing as like, the Socceroos win 2-0 today. And it's like, do you reckon we could go all the way? Like, that's why we love sport. It's going to be a slightly short episode because obviously Adam has very generously jumped off a plane to record this. It's late at night on Sunday night. So I just want to read a bit of mail and then we'll get out of here.
Go for it.
This is, I'm not sure if you heard last week's episode, but I had my good mate Nick Splitter on and
loved it.
Big Saints fan. And we had a bit of a disagreement over, he was comparing Gold Coast and Fremantle, saying they're basically the same. And I was a bit like taken aback by that. Well, it turns out he stirred the mighty heart of the Purple West. So I got this email from Maddie. Hey, Charlie, I've loved listening this year. I think you've been doing an excellent job and have been getting some great guests on. Until Nick Splitter. Comparing Freo to the Suns. The waffle to the kneeful, the disrespect pouring from his mouth, barely making sentences, was the most extreme Vic bias I've ever heard. You could practically hear him shrugging, thinking, is it even a footy club if it's not in Melbourne? Most Vic bias is water off a duck's back. We don't really give a shit. I beg to differ, Matty. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
But to hear a Saints fan of all supporter bases look down their hard life, broken nose, so nonchalantly dismiss 150 plus years of footy history is shocking. Nick saying Fremantle isn't really a football area. Besides Fremantle being a foundation waffle club, East Freo and South Freo were both 100 plus years old when the Dockers formed and have produced some of the greatest players to have bothered to travel over to your side of the cabbage patch and teach you lot how to play. The waffle is the second biggest pathway into the AFL and shits all over the Neefle. Waffle Colts could happily flog a Neefle first side. Sorry about all the rage, Charlie. This is not directed at you. You tried to bat for us, but gave it up for a lost cause. I just can't shake that entitled prestige of some Victorians and their game. I can't believe it. A Saints fan is somehow still entitled. Go Freo and our sister club in the East. Thank you, Matty. Very passionate male.
Well, and some listeners might not know that the Swans are called the Swans because up until like the 1930s, I think, the Swans were known as the blood-soaked Angels, and there was a plethora of WA-based players came and played for Sydney, and that's why they became called the Swans, from the Swan as part of the WA. So I'm, as a Swans fan, completely in touch with the deep football origins and connections back in the far west of this beautiful country.
I thought Nick Splitter was going to be my most controversial guest.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming up next week, Dave Hughes.
Yeah. Well, I thought when you had Nick Fuentes on, that was going to be, but it turns out Nick Splitter's the most controversial Nick on podcasting these days.
Now, I said I wanted to give a Swans fan the right of reply, and so we're going to finish with this email from a Swans fan. Hey, Charlie, long-suffering, non-bandwagoner Swans fan and long-time listener. Thank you for the clarification. I went into this weekend's game, as in the Saints versus the Swans, with great trepidation. Big ins for the Saints screamed danger to me. Yes, I was pacing like a maniac in those last couple of minutes too. Knowing your thoughts on the Swans and their fans in particular meant I was going to lap up every bit of this week's episode. I haven't felt like this since I drove from Adelaide to watch the 2005 prelim and nearly got killed by the St Kilda cheer squad. It was utterly amazing. Sure, I couldn't listen to the show after the 2022 and 2024 grand finals, knowing the schadenfreude you were revelling in. The swings and roundabouts of football. But I commiserate with you, Charlie. I have a super soft spot for the Saints, but holy shit, you were the first person I thought of when Sarong kicked that goal. Oh, God. Chin up, mate. Lots of positives out of the game. Still have the pod. Go Swans. Mick. Thank you, Mick. And I will take your pity. So it's all we've got at the moment, so I'll take it.
Yep, absolute perfect balance. And if any Port Adelaide fans want to write to me, you know where to find me. Happy to receive your mail.
So that is the episode this week. Thank you, Spence, for joining me at such a late hour. A great guest. If you want to join me on Patreon, we do tips every Thursday night about 7 p.m. We talk about the teams. We do a bit of chat. It's a real fun time. So you can do that by joining our Patreon. We'll be back again next week with another. So do you have anything you want to plug? I'll put all your links in the show notes. But if you have anything specific you need to plug, Spence?
I'm writing a nerd news column at Substack. Adam B. Spencer on Substack for 2 nerd news of the week. Some mathematics, chemistry, bit of fun. Get your geek on.
That's it for 2 Guys, 1 Cup. Play on, not 15.
Stand, 50.
Here to 40 loving dickheads, dreaming about a Premiership Cup. We love our clubs, but they never win. 2 flags in 100 years. The shit house. If you think we'll be insightful, clever, or just well researched, we're here to say that's not the case. We'll just go out and wing it. We are 2 guys, 1 cup.